All right, here we go. 9 5s even problems. Let's start with 12c5, calculating this coefficient. So we're going to say 12 factorial over 12 minus 5 factorial times 5 factorial. Simplifying that, 12 minus 5 is 7 times 5. So if we work this out, we're going to have 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 times 8. I'll stop there because the 7's will cancel. In the denominator, we'll have 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And let's see what we can cancel. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. So we're just left with 11 times 9 times 8 divided by 1, which is 72 times 11, 792. All right, next problem, problem 20. Let's use the binomial theorem to expand and simplify the expression. All right, so first things, we're going to need to know the coefficients. We could use the triangle to get this, but it's saying let's use the theorem instead, the binomial theorem. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 6. Now this is just the coefficients. We'll put in the x and the 1 later. We start 6c0, then we go 6c1, 6c2, 6c3, 6c4, all the way out to 6c6. To find these coefficients. So let's figure out what this is going to look like. This is 6 factorial over 6 minus 0. So 6 factorial, 0 factorial. And so this is just going to be 1. Which makes sense because if we do the triangle, all the edges, the first terms are all going to be 1. And all the right-hand edges are going to be 1. So if we know the first term, we also know the last term over here is going to be 1. Let's figure out the next one, 6c1. This is 6 factorial over 5 factorial, 1 factorial, which is going to be 6. So we've got 6 over here. Then we've got 6 factorial over 4 factorial, 2 factorial, which is going to be 6 times 5 over 2 times 1. 3 times 5 is 15. So we'll get a 15 over here. And then last in the middle, we've got 6c3, so 6 factorial over 3 factorial. 3 factorial is going to be 654 over 321. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 4 is 20. All right, so our coefficients are 1. And then we can start plugging in the terms. X to the 6th, 1 to the 0. Plus 6, coming from right here, x to the 5th, 1 to the 1st. Remember, these exponents here always have to add up to 6. Plus 15, x to the 4th, times 1 to the 2nd. And since it's 1 here, this term is always just going to be 1. 1 squared, 1 cubed, it's always going to be 1. So let me finish up putting these in. Plus 20 x cubed times 1 cubed. Plus 15x squared times 1 to the 4th plus 6x to the 1st times 1 to the 5th plus 1x to the 0 times 1 to the 6th. Squeeze that in there. All right, so let's clean this up. We've got x to the 6th plus 6x to the 5th plus 15x plus 20x cubed plus 15x squared plus 6x plus 1 is our expansion. Problem 30. X plus 2y to the 4th. All right, let's get our coefficients first. We're going to need 4c0, 4c1, 4c2, all the way up until 4c4. So this is going to be 4 factorial over, you know what? We know the edges are always 1. 1 and 1. So let's go ahead and do the next one. 4 factorial over 3 factorial, 1 factorial, which is 4. and 4, and then 4 factorial over 2 factorial, 2 factorial, which is going to be 4 times 3 over 2 times 1, which is 4 times 3 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 1, 4, 6, 4, 1, and so let's do our coefficients. 1, x to the 4th, 2y to the 0, plus 4, x to the 3rd, 2y to the 1st, plus 6, x to the 2nd, 2y to the 2nd, plus 4, x cubed, 2y to the 1st, plus 1x, sorry, wrong direction. This is x to the 1st, 2y to the 3rd, counting up here, x to the 0, 2y to the 4th. All right, let's simplify here. This is x to the 4th, plus 2 times 4 is 8, x cubed y, plus 2 squared is 4, times 6 is 24, x squared, y squared, plus 2 cubed is 8, times 4 is 32, xy cubed, plus 2 to the 4th is 16, y to the 4th. Final answer. I'm going to erase this and do 40 also on the same screen here. Alright, so we've got 4x minus 1 cubed minus 2, 4x minus 1 to the 4th. So we're going to have to do this whole thing first, and then we'll do this second and times it by 2 to simplify. So a lot of algebra going on here. We need to do our c's first, 3c0, 3c1, 3c2, and 3c3. Edges are 1. This is going to be 3 factorial over 2 factorial, 1 factorial, which is going to be 3. And so this is also 3. All right, so we've got our coefficients. 1, 4x cubed, don't forget your negative 1 to the 0, plus 3, 4x squared, negative 1 to the 1st, plus 3, 4x to the 1st, negative 1 squared, and finally plus 1, and we've got 4x to the 0, and negative 1 cubed. Clean this up. 4 cubed is 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 again is 64, x cubed, and we've got 4 squared is 16 times 3 is 48, and a negative 48 x squared. And negative 1 squared is positive, so we'll say plus. 3 times 4 is 12. And then minus 4x to the 0 is 0, so just minus 1. All right, I'm going to put this up here so we can hang on to it. 64x to the 3rd. What do we have here? Minus 48x squared plus 12x minus 1. Alright, so let's figure out the next one using the 4th. Alright, so to the 4th. So 4c0, 4c1, all the way across. 1's on the outside. 4. This is going to be also 4. We can start to see those patterns. And 4 factorial over 2 factorial. 2 factorial is going to be 4 times 3 over 2 times 1. And what do we got here? 4 over 2 is 2 times 3 is 6. Erase that just for the space. That's a 6. And so we will have 1, 4x to the 4th. Negative 1 to the 0. And let me just fill this in all the way across. Okay, so clean this up. 4 to the 4th is 64 times 4. What is that? 256. X to the 4th plus 48 times 4 again. Let's see. Sorry, plus 256, so this will be a minus. Just make sure that I'm doing that right. 4 cubed is 64 times 4 is, yes, 256. X to the 3rd plus 4 squared is 16 times 6 is 96. X squared, and 4 times 4 is 16. We're going to be a minus at this point. And at the end, we're going to say plus 1. All right. That was this part here, which we just figured out. Remember, it is times 2, so let's double all of these things. 256 times 2 is 512. Fourth.
No problem. Take your time, okay?
Okay, see ya. All right, so 512 is what we get when we double it. Minus also 512. That's the 4th. X to the 3rd. 96 times 2 is 192. Minus 32x plus 2. And so we're going to subtract this from the original. So we're going to have the top line minus 512 x to the 4th. And we're going to, what happens when we minus a negative? We're going to add 512x cubed. And we're going to minus 192x squared. And we're going to add 32x. And we're going to minus 2. So we're going straight down. We're going to end up with negative 512x to the 4th. Plus 576x cubed minus 192 plus 48. 240x squared plus 44x minus 3. Oh, a lot of work on that one, but we get to that final answer. All right, 50, find the specified nth term in here. We want the 5th term in here. So this is going to be 5c, taking that 5 from right here, okay? And I want the 5th term in here. And so you're tempted to put a 5 right here, because it's the 5th term. But remember when we were doing that in the last one, if I wanted the first one here, we're going to go 5c0, and then 5c1, and then 5c2. So the first term, we actually put in a 0. The second term, we put in a 1. So it's going to be whatever our term is, minus 1 in here. So we're going to go 5c4 for our coefficient. So 5c4 is going to be 5 factorial over, subtract them 1 factorial, 4 factorial, which is just 5. And so we want to expand this all the way out. It'll be 5. 5a to the something, 6b to the something. What are those somethings going to be? Well, if it's the 5th term, we're using 4 for this second one, and 1 for the first one. Thinking being on this one, as we expand out, the very last term, which would be the 6th, this number here would be 5. So the 5th term is the second to the last one. We're almost to the end. The way you can always do it is just take whatever the number is here and plug it in here. So let's go ahead and expand this out. 5 times 5a times 6 to the 4th. What is that? 6 times 6 times 6. 1296. B to the 4th. And so 1296 times 5 times 5. 32,400. A, B to the 4th would be our term. All right, 60. Let's find the coefficient of A here. If we're doing the term where we get Z to the 4th and T to the 8. All right, so we know this is going to be 10C something from here. And we know this is going to be the, if we flip back here, look at the last one. If the second term has a 4 on it, we got a 4 over here. Let's look at what the second term has on it, an 8. So we're going to also use an 8 right here. So we're 10 factorial over 2 factorial 8 factorial, which is 10 times 9 over 2 times 1, which is 45. And that's our coefficient right there. Okay? Moving on, 70. Let's expand the difference quotient. All right, so this is going to be x plus h is going to be x plus h to the 8th minus x to the 8th all over h. So our job is to expand this guy here, x plus h to the 8th. All right, so on this one to the 8th, I'm going to, just because we haven't used it yet, let's go in here and use the triangle. First row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row, sixth row. What are we on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we need to get up to 8 here. So seventh row, it's going to be 1, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, and 1, and our last row, the 8th here. So 1, 8, 28, 56, 70, 56, 28, 8, and 1. A lot of work going on in here, but at this point now here we have all our coefficients, and so we're just going to plug these in. So we'll start with 1 x to the 8th and h to the 0, so we won't put that in for now, plus 8 x to the 7th, h to the 1st, plus 28 x to the 6th, h to the 2nd, plus 56 x to the 5th, h cubed, plus 70 x to the 4th, h to the 4th, plus 56 x to the 5th. Sorry, we're going down, sorry, x to the 3rd, h to the 5th, plus 28 x to the 2nd, h to the 6th, we're almost there, plus 8 x to the 1st, h to the 7th, plus 1 h to the 8th. We made it all the way to the end. We do need to subtract an x to the 8th off the end, which cancels these out, which means that every single term in here has an h in it. We need to divide by h. So our final terms are going to be 8x to the 7th, h disappears, plus 28 x to the 6th, h, plus 56 x to the 5th, h squared, plus 70 x to the 4th, h cubed, plus 56 x cubed, h to the 4th, plus 28 x to the 2nd, h to the 5th, plus 8x h to the 6th, plus h to the 7th. That is our final answer. Alright, here we go. Some word problems in here. And the word problems basically say, do this. Alright, so we'll just go ahead in there and get it. 10c3, 10 factorial over 7 factorial, 3 factorial. Turns out to be 10 times 9 times 8 over 3 times 2 times 1. Do some canceling. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. Times 10 is 120. Times a fourth to the third. Times 3/4 to the seventh. And from here, it's a punch it into your calculator problem. What do we got? 120 times 1/4 to the third times 0.75 to the seventh. 0.2503 is the answer I get. So he's 25%, a little bit more likely than 25% to get 3 hits during the next 10 times at bat. Let's try 88. Same, almost exact problem here. 8c4 looks like this. So we've got 8765 over 4321. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 and a 4 will go like this. 7 times 5. 35 times 2 is 70 times a half to the fourth. And a half to the fourth again is the same as saying a half to the eighth. So let's go straight to that. Times 70. And this person has a 27, a little bit better than a 27% chance of making 4 sales is what we're looking for. 0.2734 is what you should get. Alright, last one. Almost made it 90. Let's do the determinant. Got to dig back to what a determinant is. That's when you multiply that and minus that. So 1 times 2 minus 1 times 1, and we get the determinant there. 2 minus 1 is 1. 6 minus 3 is 3. 12 minus 6 is 6. 20 minus 10 is 10. 30 minus 15 is 15. Can we come up with a pattern for this? An A sub n, if you will. Right? So we want to take whatever we had last time, that's an n minus 1, and add whatever our n is. To get the second number, we're going to take the last number and plus 2. To get the third number, we're going to take our last one and plus 3 is what this formula is saying here. Alright, that's it. Questions, come and talk to me in class.